Hi, my name is Bailey Wells, and I'd like to introduce you to our group, Wicked Obesity. Throughout the course of this semester, we have been doing extensive research on the negative impacts of obesity for the environment and for our biogeochemical systems and for our society, and all of the things that we can do and all of the resources we can use to solve this problem for the future. I have been working with Erin Husky, and she is going to talk about the current state of America and obesity today, and just how deeply it impacts specifically our nitrogen system. I've also been working with Diana Hendricks. She is going to cover some drivers and indicators of this wicked problem. And finally, I have been working with Shelby Kurland, who is going to discuss some positive and negative future scenarios and the vision for obesity in the future. I'd like to hand it off to Diana, who is going to further introduce this wicked problem to you guys.
Thanks, Bailey. So, using the oversight of Transformational Sustainability Research, TSR, our group will identify the key points of our newfound understanding of obesity and how this is a complex problem, deeply impacting our ability to be sustainable. We began our research with the current state answering the question, where are we now? Today, Americans take up only 6% of the world's population, yet we account for 34% of the world's biomass. We then looked at future scenarios, answering the question, where are we headed? After analyzing the nitrogen cycle and how much it is being impacted due to human activity, we also researched drivers and indicators to provide data and measure the effects of obesity on our socio-ecological systems. Our research showed a dire lack of sustainable resource use, and a logical conclusion if we are to continue on this path would be extinction. Here is a picture showing the total nitrogen atmospheric depositions. We then looked at different scenarios envisioning answering the question, where do we want to go? Where we compiled a positive scenario and a negative scenario. I really value this piece of art from the movie Before the Flood. It is called the Garden of Earthly Delights, and I believe it to be a very creative depiction of not only the wicked problem we are studying, but the conglomeration of all wicked problems. Finally, we put together a transition strategy, where we answered the important question of how do we get there. In this final report, we used all we had learned and created a logical process that would address what we found to be the main drivers of obesity. So next up, we will have Erin, who will be reviewing our problem definition and current state of obesity.
Thanks, ladies. First, we are going to jump right into our first question of our TSR framework, which is, where are we currently? Obesity is a wicked problem because it, A, has a vague definition. It's a problem that is complex and will be defined differently by different people based on their own personal knowledge and experiences. Secondly, there is no defined solution. It affects the environment, economy, and society, and therefore has no defined solution because it is intertwined in so many different facets of life. Next, obesity has no endpoint. Every time we apply a proposed solution to the problem, we find ourselves with new aspects of the problem that require different solutions. Lastly, obesity is urgent because it is affecting 74% of the U.S. population that is overweight. Next, I want to touch on the stakeholders in the problem of obesity. 4 important stakeholders are people who are obese, the industrial agricultural system, food retailers, and low-income population. Technology has been a driving force in the abundance of food being produced in America. Technology took food production away from the process that utilized natural resources on a smaller localized scale to a system that has grown so large that it cannot be sustained without man-made synthetic inventions. The next TSR question that we want to discuss is where we are headed. The most relevant biogeochemical cycle to the problem of obesity is the nitrogen cycle. The nitrogen cycle and obesity are connected through many different aspects, but mostly through the agricultural industry's use of fertilizers and fossil fuels for industrial and transportational uses. The first way that humans have impacted the nitrogen cycle is through our implementation of nitrogen fertilizers that we use on crops for food production. This leads to increasing amounts of nitrogen and nitrates in land and water stocks. The increase of nitrogen levels in water systems has led to eutrophication or dead zones. These dead zones are caused by an increase in algal blooms that consume so much of the oxygen that other species are forced to either leave or they die because of the lack of oxygen. Also, it has been proven that these fertilizers are linked to causing cancer in humans. Secondly, industrial farmers burn fossil fuels during transportation and production. The excess burning of fossil fuels leads to increased nitrogen and nitrous oxide in the atmosphere. Next, I'm going to hand things off to Diana, who will talk about where we're heading in the future. Thanks, guys.
So in this report, we looked at the drivers and indicators that ultimately can start to answer the TSR question, where are we headed? We started by identifying 4 direct drivers of obesity that we felt were most relevant due to our previous research. So as you can see in our obesity impact diagram, our direct drivers are dependence on fossil fuels, widespread use of chemicals, industrialization of technology, and American culture. From there, we branch off to 4 indirect drivers. For example, under chemicals, we have hormones in food production, synthesized fertilizer, GMOs, pharmaceuticals, and then under culture, we have education, fast-paced culture, accessibility, money is more valuable than health. Under dependence of fossil fuels, the indirect drivers are the transportation of agricultural products, such as moving fruits and vegetables from a farm to factories, to stores, and so on and so forth. Dependence on transportation, availability of fossil fueled energy. And then from industrialization of technology, we have service-based employment, entertainment, technology-driven conveniences, and agricultural technology. From there, we identified 5 sustainability indicators to attempt to measure the effects of obesity. The first indicator we used was global greenhouse gas emissions from agricultural sector, with a current value of 625.42 million metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalents. This cow is a great visual depiction of the many negative effects of our current agricultural system. Second indicator we used was happiness of self. The argument was made that people who are unhealthy, i.e. overweight, mentally ill, are more likely to also be unhappy. 14% higher risk of death among unhappy people was found in this study. The third indicator, food deserts. The trend is increasing. As more food deserts appear, more people are likely to become obese. The average obesity rate is 27.42 in counties with food deserts. The fourth indicator we used was health. Health is decreasing as obesity increases. Diabetes is 93% more likely for obese women. Stroke, 63% more likely. Asthma, 50% more likely. And I'm sure those numbers go on. The fifth indicator, land change, currently is at 44.3% of land area being used for agriculture. More land area will be needed as the population continues to grow. And I will leave you this image titled Our Failing Food System from the Union of Concerned Scientists, which illustrates a lot of what is wrong with our food system, as well as the vast amount of land being utilized for monoculture crops. And now we'll go to Shelby for a look at scenarios and visioning. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Shelby. Thanks, Diana, for all your information about our indicators. Now, using the indicators, we created possible future scenarios for United States obesity. Imagine 50 years from now. In a positive scenario, economically, America went through an agricultural revolution. Industrial farms became obsolete, and the shift to local and urban farming is now the norm. Citizens of all walks of life have the opportunity to shop at farmers markets through governmental programs and increased market pressure. The technology market scaled back and became less invasive in everyday lives. Major corporations shifted their product designs to become more of a lifestyle accessory rather than a necessity. Additionally, a new mandate was implemented that requires employers to offer credit to their associates to enable them the opportunity to exercise in a more encouraging and knowledgeable environment. Politically, government subsidies are now given to small to mid-sized farms that grow locally rather than large farms that ship internationally. Also, the federal government has shown strong support of the organic movement. Local governments have focused on amping up and reimagining food and health education. Also, infrastructure as a whole has been widely invested in at all levels, creating more walkable, livable, and less car-intensive cities and neighborhoods. Using our indicators in this scenario, BMI would be a healthier number. Land area used for industrial agriculture would be almost gone, and global greenhouse gas emissions for the agricultural sector would be the lowest we've seen since before the Green Revolution. This is our positive scenario. Our negative scenario looks a little bit different. Politically, the government has monopolized food production in factories and charges high prices for that food. There is increased use of hormones, synthetic fertilizers, and GMOs. The goal is to maximize profit for factory farms, which entails shipping across the country and internationally. Socially, the average age of the United States citizen has decreased to 37 years old. Heart disease, cancer, and diabetes rates are the highest we've ever seen. Social interaction has been limited due to major increases in invasive communication and lifestyle technologies. This is contributing to the rise of multiple mental illnesses. Internationally, many developing nations are following the example of the United States, causing even more damage. Environmentally, ecosystems are dying, soil degradation is prevalent and increasing, and greenhouse gas has damaged the earth beyond the tipping point of saving. For indicators, BMI is severely disproportionate. Land area used for industrial agriculture is almost 4/5 of our nation's geography, and global greenhouse gases in the ecosystem have increased 4 times over and continue to do so. Our vision is the positive future scenario. There are cities in the United States that are striving towards a healthier society already, one of them being New York City. With the help of diverse organizations, governmental, corporate, and nonprofit, they are achieving this goal of creating more opportunities for their citizens to achieve happiness and healthiness through their Plan NYC. Now, I'll hand it off to Bailey, who's going to talk about a transition strategy.
Hi, Shelby. Thanks for all of your information on what a successful vision for obesity looks like. The transition strategies that we can use to get from the current state we're in today to reach that sustainable goal in the future is going to be using the resources we have available to us. The current state that we're in America is heavily reliant on processed, cheap, quick, and easy to obtain fast food, and it provides instant benefits to us because it's so quick and fast-paced like we are, but it doesn't provide long-term benefits, and that's what we really need. The average BMI in America today is 26.6, and that unfortunately falls in the overweight category in the BMI scale. What we can do about this is find our resources and use them to our advantage. We can take local communities that support local farming and local markets because they're so high beneficial for our diets and our health and are more sustainable for us. Another resource that we have could be supporting high-profile political figures with the same views and the same ideals, because they will voice the future, the positive future of America. The last and probably most powerful source that we have today is going to be media or the internet or social media. This is because it's the quickest way to spread information globally at the touch of a button. And it can be used to provide our communities and everyone on what the more sustainable choices can be based on research. The unfortunate thing about media is that it can be a barrier that hinders our progressive movement because it isn't utilized to the best of its ability. People look for what other lifestyle ideals on the internet, and they're heavily influenced by that. And they can be very opinionated. So instead of using it to influence based on opinions, we want to influence people based on research and based on education and background information that is very beneficial to the sustainable world that we're reaching for. After we can turn this barrier around is going to be when we can truly start taking action on achieving our real goal of true sustainability. Thanks.
In conclusion, United States obesity is a wicked problem. Through our collective research, we were able to understand the dynamics that create, contribute, and continue this issue. From our information, we gained an overall understanding of the United States obesity issue today, and from that, we were able to form future scenarios. Both of these scenarios have both negative and positive consequences for the future. Both of these scenarios have negative and positive consequences. With each of these scenarios, our conclusion is that the society of the United States, including the institutions that govern it, must come together to create a paradigm shift focused on locality, community, and education. Only through this can the United States overcome their obesity epidemic and provide a healthy and sustainable lifestyle for all.